Welcome back.
Welcome to episode 3. We're so excited to have you here.
We are really excited to continue this podcasting journey. This is, episode number 3.
Do you guys notice anything different?
We're leveling up.
The microphones finally made it. And let me tell you guys a little story about these mics.
Yes.
So we found out that you can't use 2 mics at the same time. So someone told us to buy a little machine, this interface thing that connects the audio.
Complicated thing.
So we buy it and we get it, and I just spent 2 hours trying to figure this out. You guys, I'm a woman in STEM.
She is.
I actually just said, fuck the little device and figured it out on my laptop. It was so easy.
Yeah.
And now we're here. So I hope you guys really appreciate the mics.
She really is a woman in STEM because she figured that out. I was really confused.
It was super confusing. But
we're here.
Yeah.
We're here. We're leveling up. We are dedicated to this podcast.
We are dedicated to this podcast.
Yeah. But we are. We really are. I mean, we have a vision, a very delusional vision of this podcast. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today is being delusional and being very optimistic. And
optimism.
That's what I feel like that's how we live our lives, is being very optimistic, very delusional. We've been trying to step into it more and more lately. And it's gotten us pretty far so far.
Yeah. It's been a good ride so far.
Yeah.
I feel like being optimistic, everything just works out and you appreciate it more.
Yeah. There's a study that shows that being optimistic makes you live longer. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always telling us facts, guys.
Yeah. You live longer. You have a better life, better health. Yeah. So you might as well be optimistic. So how can someone be optimistic, Kames? Kind of putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Surprise.
No,
a little surprise
how
attack.
Can you be optimistic? I try to be optimistic by really just being like, what's the best thing that could happen?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like what I think the best thing can happen. So just reminding myself over and over again, like, why am I telling myself no?
Yeah.
Like, I have this thing where I like to let other people tell me no. And I think that keeps me optimistic because it's like anything could happen and I'm not going to be the one who hinders that.
Yeah, totally.
Does that make sense?
Yes. No, it does. And that's a really, really good way to think about it of like, if you aren't even going for something because your own limitations in your mind, your own doubt in your mind, you are the only one standing in your way, really, at that point. Like, you're the first level of like rejection that you're rejecting already.
Yeah.
I think you say the saying sometimes of like, don't, like, let someone else tell you no.
Yeah, let someone else tell you no. My mom always will say to me, like, really, I guess maybe it's like a Eritrean saying or something, but essentially, like, translated, it means like you can stick your hand into the sea and you either come back catching a fish or you come back with your hands clean. So either way, you should just do it or do whatever you want or like stay positive about whatever you want because only a good outcome is going to happen.
Yeah, you might as well try.
Yeah, exactly. You might as well try. So that's how I stay optimistic, is just letting other people tell me no, never telling myself no, and just really like hoping for the best. And then usually everything really has been the best that I could imagine or even better. So
yeah, I like to think of it and describe it of like, if you're focusing on the best case scenario and you are asking for what you want, you are raising your vibration. And as you raise your vibration, you are automatically going to be attracting better things. Whether you end up getting that exact thing or not, it doesn't really matter, but you're still raising your vibration and you're still attracting good things to you rather than focusing on the worst case scenario, always being scared, always thinking things aren't going to work out for you. Then you're attracting those type of things. Like, you're attracting more negative things rather than like being more optimistic. And I have like a thought experiment that I say, which is if there was 2 kids, let's say, two kids that grew up in poverty in a trailer park, for example. And one of the kids, in their mind, they were always thinking, well, of course I'm going to get out of here. Of course I'm going to live in a mansion someday. I'm going to drive nice cars. Like, if that was their mindset. And the other kid, the other brother, was always thinking, oh, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to end up, being in the trailer home for my whole life and have a family here, whatever. Do you genuinely think that those two mindsets are not going to affect those two kids, right? Like, you can't even, I feel like logically you can't even think, like, there's no way that your mindset is not going to affect you in some capacity. And so that's how I kind of think about it, of sometimes of like, it might seem far-fetched for you to think that thinking positively or thinking delusionally is actually going to affect your mindset, but it does. And it really, really does, like, over a long period of time.
Yeah. And I think there's like a lot of evidence that proves that. Like, I think about people who work in maybe environments that aren't really the best, like are like toxic, radiation, whatever the case may be.
Like actual dangerous.
Yeah, like dangerous zones.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have workers who are in the same environment every single day. And then some people, end up getting sick, terminally ill, cancer, whatever it may be. And then you have someone who's healthy as can be. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
And I think there's like a couple studies, I don't know, Dr. Jill like mentions them about just the thought process of like, how some people get sick and other people don't. So definitely, I think your mindset can change the outcome of whatever situation you're in.
Yeah. So we're challenging our listeners, challenging y'all, challenging our future membership community members, because we're going to have a membership someday eventually. And we are challenging y'all to test it out. That's how I started on my journey. I might have mentioned this already. I just was like, okay, I don't really believe in all of this. I don't really believe in manifesting. Like, I really didn't. But I was like, I might as well just test it out and just go all in. Just start thinking positively. Start writing down what I want. Start visualizing what I want. And I'll just test it out for like 6 months. And that's what I encourage our listeners to do.
Yeah.
So starting now, if you've been negative or pessimistic or whatever, how about you just try to start thinking negatively? If you're like, okay, I'm just going to test this out for 6 months to a year, because I mean, ultimately it's not going to hurt you. Yeah. I feel like, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to make your life worse, probably. So you might as well test it out and see.
Yeah. I kind of had a moment like that at work the other day, where I was having like such an amazing day. And then I had like one sick patient, and then I was assigned another sick patient. And I kind of was like, like I
freaked out a little bit.
I freaked out like a little bit, like slightly. And then I was like, wait, actually I can do this. Like, it's really not that bad. Like, my other two patients are fine.
So just accepted it.
Yeah. I was like, I just have to go between these two. And I feel like that switch of being like, okay, well, my other two are fine. I can handle two. Like, it's, I've done worse. Nurses everywhere have done worse. And then I ended up getting like a nice little surprise, because I was in the new like sick patient's room working, like trying to like calm myself down and be like, okay, like, you know what to do. Like, this is actually like really simple. And they sent in another nurse to take over that assignment for me, because they were like, we see that you have two sick patients. Like, let me help you. And it was funny. I laughed to myself, because I was like, of course I got help. Like, of course they sent me a resource. Why was I sitting here stressed out that I had two difficult patients?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
of course it worked out. And
it worked out.
I feel like,
but it worked out as soon as I like calmed myself down.
Yeah.
Because I could have been freaked. Like, I mean, and it could have happened that way, where I was freaking out and then they sent me help. But it was like, I was freaking out, trying to run around, get everything like done, keep everyone safe. And then as soon as I was like, you know what, actually I can do this. Like, it's going to be okay. I swear, like 5 minutes later, this nurse comes in, just like, I'm taking this patient.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course you are.
Absolutely. I feel like that's such a common theme of like, when you are stressed about something, when you're worried about something, you don't know how it's going to, and then you just accept it. Like, once you finally just accept it and be like, okay, you know what? I can do this. Like, everything is okay. That's when it ends up being okay. Yeah. When you actually stop stressing about it.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Life is funny. Life is good. That was really, really good. I wish I was recording that because it was so sweet and so cute because I think I started getting emotional because I was like, well, that's such a fun memory to think back at because, again, in our delusional ass minds, and this is going to be the reality, we are going to have, millions of followers and a huge platform, and this podcast is going to grow. And so it's really, really sweet to cherish the moments of the first little moments.
Yeah. And I could have been like, oh my God, like only 3, this isn't happening fast enough. Like, whatever. Like, I could have been discouraged that we only have, I think we have like 16 followers. Like, and half of them are literally our best friends. Our best friends and our like siblings. So it could have been discouraging, but like
chose to celebrate it.
Yeah, because it was a celebration.
It's exciting.
It was like, so exciting. So
you can celebrate your small wins.
The small wins, yeah, they're important. So yeah, just forcing yourself to be optimistic because sometimes you have to fake it till you make it.
Literally.
Like there's a lot of situations that I've been in where I'm just like, what? I hate this, but no, I don't. I love it. Everything's good. And then all of a sudden, everything is good. I'm just somehow get there.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes with reprogramming your mind. Like if you've spent 28 years, for example, thinking a certain way, being a little bit more negative, thinking certain things about yourself, it takes a little bit of time to rewire those thoughts, right? It can take some time to rewire those thoughts. So if you are just practicing being optimistic, practice being nice to yourself, practice, looking in the mirror and trying to tell yourself that you love yourself rather than complaining. Yeah. Eventually, it might feel fake at first, but eventually it clicks. Like it really does stick. You start to form new neural pathways. And as you are faking it, until you make it, eventually you will make it. And things start to feel more natural. Things start to, you automatically start to have more positive thoughts. Yeah. And I think that's a good, phrase for life in general, just faking it till you make it. Yeah. It sounds cliche. Yeah. I used to hate cliches until I realized every cliche is fucking true. Yeah. But that's like one of the cliches that really is true. And I feel that as someone who creates content and posts that on social media. Felt weird and very imposter-y when I first started, and I literally just pushed through. And now it's a lot less weird. Or, with coaching, definitely felt imposter syndrome with that, or saying that I was a mindset coach. Kayma would always have to, we would
meet people and she would start to be like, whatever her day job was.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh yeah, she's on social media. She's a mindset coach.
Yeah.
She does X, Y, and Z. Like I would finish the sentence for her because I'm like, if you keep referring to you as your old day job, then that's all you're going to be.
Yeah. And all you're going to be like known as. Yeah.
Like at some point the switch has to happen.
Yeah.
And that feels really uncomfortable and freaky. But again, pushing through it.
Through.
Yeah. Until you make it.
And eventually it starts to feel real.
Yeah. I'm kind of feeling that right now with this podcast. One of my girlfriends the other day, she hadn't known that we were doing this and listened to the first episode and was like so excited. She loved it. But at the end of like the conversation, she was like, it's so funny you're doing this because like you hate social media. Like you hate being like online. Like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I honestly kind of still do. Back, or I'm listening to myself and I hear myself say like 1,000 times and I'm like, dang, am I nervous? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But
we're just pushing through, and eventually
and on, the 10th episode, 12th episode,
it's going to get better and better.
Yeah. So
that really is just trying it, putting yourself out there, doing things that are scary. Sometimes, it's scary to look within. It's scary to face your shadows. It's scary to even be nice to yourself because you're like, I feel like an idea or something that happens to some people is they're like, oh, I can't be nice to myself. I can't give myself grace because then I'll get lazy, or then I won't stop, pushing myself as hard, or I won't be as good. Yeah. But that is typically not the case. Like when you don't need to be mean to yourself to succeed.
Yeah. Or don't make excuses for your success. Like I used to I guess in school, I would get an A on a test and I would be like, oh, well, it's because the test was really easy. No, it was because I'm smart.
Yeah.
And that's it, Like whether it's easy or not, I accomplished that. So why am I diminishing my value by being oh, well, the test was really easy. Or it wasn't that hard or this or that. So just affirming yourself again, back to affirmations, gotta start somewhere, just like telling yourself that you are that bitch.
You really are that bitch. I mean, yeah, it works because I think both of us have worked on our confidence. For me, I've definitely come a long way because I used to not be very confident in the way I looked, confident in general. And now I really am obsessed with myself. And like Kayma mentioned, I think maybe on the last podcast, I will go around the apartment and be like, oh my God, I look so good. And I genuinely, yeah,
So thank you.
it's rubbing off. And I genuinely mean that. And I'm like, well, I don't even feel bad about it.
Yeah, well,
So
why wouldn't you?
I know I don't sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't feel bad about it. And because I genuinely really appreciate it. Because I remember a time when I didn't necessarily love what I saw in the mirror. And now I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a point of sometimes we go through negative, quote unquote, negative times or bad times or hard times because that can also give us a way to experience the good times even more. Because I think about it, this is kind of like I'm going off topic here. This is like a whole new topic, but experiencing like lows makes you be able to experience the highs a lot more. The contrast, that's the word I was looking for. Because if we, for example, like a thought experiment, if we were born into this world with everything being perfect, you automatically were happy, you automatically had the best family, the best life, whatever, that would just be your normal. That wouldn't necessarily be good, it would just be normal.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like part of the human experience is the contrast. Like we kind of have to feel the bad sometimes, because then you realize how good the good actually is. And that's kind of a way to like appreciate and the bad times and realize, it's happening. It can be happening for a reason. Doesn't have to be all bad.
Another way to like realize or like shift the bad in your mind is kind of to like negate any emotion from it, and like it just is, and how you react to it. And I think that kind of goes back to like you saying like in our heads we're not us, we're just the observer. So like if anything bad does happen, like sometimes maybe you're not completely ready to be like super optimistic or like see the good in it, but like taking a step back and being like, okay, no emotions, now what is the situation for what it is, and then how can I go from there?
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't need to be super reactive or super emotional about everything. Like if something happens in your life, you can, a lot of times, maybe it triggers us or we perceive it in a certain way, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in that negative way. Is that kind of
that's exactly
what you're saying?
What
Okay. Yeah. So this is your sign to try to be more delusional and be more optimistic. As you listen to this podcast, I believe that we will convince you, little by little, that being optimistic and being delusional will get you really, really far. And we will continue to share some of our delusions because we can be a delusional community together.
Yeah. And I'd much rather like be delusional and think of the best case scenario than not.
Yeah.
So it sucks to be like sad about something or like down bad.
Yeah. It's not great. It's not a great feeling to have and live in consistently.
Yeah. But I don't know, I want to touch like really quick, like, but we're not saying like ignore the situation.
You don't have to,
like if something like isn't working out, like not ignoring it and being delusional, but just like recognizing that that's the situation that you're in, and knowing and believing in yourself that you can push through, knowing that it has to end, and then choosing to see the positives in it as you like move through it.
Yeah. And I guess touching on nervous system regulation maybe quickly, like we can do more episodes and go into depth about it, but I do want to say anytime I'm talking about focusing on the best case scenario, it's a lot easier to focus on the best case scenario if your nervous system is regulated. So again, we can like dive into that more. You can do some research, but it can be easy things like just, slowing down a little bit in your day, taking time to take deep breaths, going outside, A lot of these things that if you've ever heard of anything nervous system regulation, just realize that our nervous system really affects the way we think. So if our nervous system is dysregulated, then it's a lot harder to focus on the best case scenario. So yeah, just want to touch on that. We'll dive into that more in the next couple episodes.
We love regulating our nervous systems because it's free. Everyone can do it. Anyone can do it literally at any time of the day.
Yes.
So we'll definitely have to deep dive into that and the benefits of it. So.
Yes.
But yeah, but until then, stay positive.
Yes. Stay delusional. Stay inspired.
Yep.
Okay. We love you all. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.